All right. What was the year?
1997 or something like that, 98.
What happened?
We was fixing to bed oysters. We had a load. We dredged 3 days, 3 hard days, fast as we could shovel as many oysters as we could put on the boat. The boat was 60 foot long, old boat, old oyster lugger from Lafitte or somewhere down there, and it carried a load. We had it loaded. We probably had too many oysters on it, probably, and we had got reports on the radio that a low pressure was building up in the lower Gulf and was going to come through sometime from midnight. That night that we left the reef, we had to leave the reef and go probably 25 miles to where we was going to unload them. And we got around Door Point, got in through, went outside of Mitchell Key, and we got close to Point Comfort. And when we got off of Point Comfort, off of Comfort Island, about 1.5 miles, all of a sudden the boat sat on the bottom. Water come up in the windows where I was in the wheelhouse. Uncle Paul was in the wheelhouse. We couldn't get out of the boat. We couldn't, I could have climbed out the window, but we had oysters all the way up to the window. And
so just stop you right there. Explain, so the process of bedding oysters, what's the purpose of it?
Because you let them grow, you put them on your lease.
So you're taking raw oyster shells?
You're taking little oysters from the wild reefs. Okay. And that's what they designated for, is to bed oysters. And you take them oysters off the reef and you put them on your lease, and they'll grow. And you can keep people off of them, keep them from stealing your oysters, taking your oysters. And you go back and you can work them and make money with them.
Okay, so this is.
So we knew if we could have got one more load, if we could have got that load for Will and a load for us, then we would have been able to get in the oyster business pretty strong. But we didn't get to finish because we sunk. And so we sunk about 3 o'clock in the evening. I'd say around 2:30, 3 o'clock.
So what's going through your head at this time? I mean,
so here we are stranded, and all the boats is done gone.
No cell phones.
No cell phones, no. And the radio was blaring, and it had people was talking on there. And this radio wasn't very strong anyway. It wasn't very powerful VHF. And I tried to call Coast Guard. I put out an SOS, bulletin out, but nobody received it. I went on 16 and hollered it, Mayday, Mayday. Nothing, no response. And wasn't long, the batteries was underwater, they died, shorted out. So anyway, we got out of the boat and got on top of the cabin. We finally kicked the back door open to where I could get out. We could get out and climb up on top of the cabin. And we sunk in 7 foot of water. If we'd have been in deeper water, we wouldn't have.
Right, but at this time, do you remember was it a beautiful evening, like the calm before the storm?
Slick calm, yeah.
The way it used to slick off?
He didn't even think there was going to be a front come through, anything like that. We didn't think, we was figuring that the weathermen was lying,
Right.
But they were.
What was the temperature?
The temperature was in the high 70s.
High 70s.
And low 80s, yeah.
So
we was in short sleeve shirts and.
So y'all are on the bottom. You're on
the bottom.
You're on top of the boat at this point. All right.
Everything's underwater except the top of the cabin.
Describe. I've been in situations on the water where it's gotten hairy. Me and you've been in situations on the water where it's gotten hairy, right?
Right.
There's a point in time where you have to make a decision. Like, all right. I mean, you start processing information. okay, this is what's going on. This is what we got to do. Where was y'all at
So
this point?
we had all our stuff. We got our jumpsuits and our slicker suits, and we got on top of the cabin. All the life jackets got on top of the cabin. We had a bunch of oyster poles that we used to stake the oysters off where we're going to drop them at, where we're going to plant them. And anyway, we was trying to debate how we was going to save ourselves, because we knew if that wind was going to blow like that the water was going to be high. And it did. It got, making long story short.
Oh, it was still.
Well, it got up to 8 foot that night over
the top of the boat. Right.
Over normal, yeah.
Right. So right now it's slick calm.
Slick calm.
You're on top of the boat.
So we took matches and put them in a jar, and we put we had other stuff. We kept our wallets in our pockets, but we tied life jackets together, and we had a rope we was going to tie around us, and we was going to swim to the island, which is 1.5 miles away. That's a long swim.
And the water temperature, roughly, I mean, it's what?
Water temperature was probably in the 70s.
So it's still it's kind of warm, but it's
wasn't real cold, but it wasn't hot either.
Right.
We wasn't worried about that. We would have got our adrenaline going, you know. We would have swam, and it would have got warmer and warmer. We let's see. We prayed. We prayed and we prayed and we prayed. And after a while, before it got dark, sun was still up a little bit. There was a boat passed about 5 miles offshore of us, loaded with oysters going to Empire. We knew where he was going. We seen him. And we figured he might have been the last boat. But we had poles, everything, had them all stacked up there. We stuck them all around the big gob of them around the boat, stuck them up in the mud so they could find the boat when they came back out, because we figured there wouldn't be nothing left on the boat. And we was getting ready. The sun was just going down. You barely could see half the sun. And I seen another boat about 2 miles offshore. And I shot flares at the other boat, but he didn't turn. He just kept going. But I shot the last 2 flares at this boat. And this guy, he said he had his, when he came to get us, he said...
Describe, you're getting a little fast. Describe that moment when you shot the first flare and that boat kept going.
Well, we figured he just wasn't interested in us. And
but as a fisherman, I mean, as growing up, anytime you've seen a flare or anything like that, it's always been, it doesn't matter, you go try to help. Right?
That's
the way we were raised.
That's one of the laws of the sea. If you see somebody in need, you go helping people.
So
no matter what you got to do.
So when you fired that flare, and you know that boat seen, you know, it's like, it's kind of obvious. Anytime you got to
see it.
Yeah, you know, being down there in the marsh and different places like that, you're going to recognize when you see something, especially a flare like that, go off. Yeah. And it wasn't like it malfunctioned or anything like that. So that feeling of saying, okay, all right.
That chance is gone.
Right. How many flares did y'all have?
So we only had 3.
3. So you shot.
Shot 2 for him. And the last boat that really came and got us, I only shot 1.
So as that boat was the sun's setting. I mean,
Well, he was coming. I seen him coming, and he was probably 2 miles from us, which ain't very far on the water,
right.
But it is a ways. And he said he had his back to the door and was watching television and driving the boat, automatic pilot.
Right.
And he was heading for Empire, Buras. And he said he wanted to see the sun go down. And he looked over there and he seen the sun and he seen us seen us in between him and the sun. And he said, I seen y'all waving. And he said, I woke the Captain up. I told him, I said, Captain, we got some men that needs help. They sunk on a boat over there. He said, we need to go get them. He said, no, keep going. He said, we got a storm coming. And he said, we got to be in Empire before that thing hits. And he said he looked one more time. And the captain told me this. Said, he woke me up again. And I'm mad, he said. He was a Yugoslavian or whatever he was, I don't know. But he said, and the boy that was on the boat with him said, look, he said, if you don't get up and turn this boat toward them people, he said, I'm going to throw you overboard. He said, and don't think I won't do it. Said, I just got out of Angola prison. I was in there for 12 years for killing a man. And he said, I'll kill another man to save two. So he, and the captain told me that's what he told him. He said, when he came, it was after dark when he got to us. But he got to us, he said, y'all fussing at us, hollering at us, hurry up and get on this boat. Leave your stuff. No, we got our stuff. We got our clothes and stuff. And I wasn't leaving my jumpsuit and my slicker suit no. And all that. So we got life jackets and stuff, piled them on his boat. And he had a load of oysters, all right, but he was a steel boat. And anyway, we called on the Marine radio after he got us aboard. And we got to go, and I called Will Pearson. And Will Pearson told him he had to meet us at the Gap. That this guy wasn't going to wait; he was going to take us on the Empire. And so him and my son-in-law, Kent Rose, they came and picked us up at the cut in the rocks, and that was about 9 or 10 o'clock when they picked us up. And the wind hadn't quite got stirred up yet. You could just feel the change coming. And we didn't go back to the boat that night. We went on in, and about 1 o'clock at night, that front come through, and it snowed. And it blowed so hard, it blowed the water in 8 foot over the road. And we wouldn't have made it, I don't think, if we wouldn't, because we'd have had to go to the island. The island would have went underwater, and then we'd have had to swim to a rig to try to get up on that platform. Then we might have froze to death.
Hypothermia, being wet, jumpsuits. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you ought to give it a go, hoorah, but there ain't much you could have done in that situation. No. Oh.
Wouldn't have took my clothes off. I'd have kept my clothes on. That would have held the body heat in.
Right.
I'd have had slicker suit, jumpsuit,
duct tape, electrical
duct tape, everything.
Right.
Would have been all taped up. But when they found us, they would have found us together.
Right.
Because we had a long rope we tied to each other.
What a story, huh? Made it out.
Just amazing to be here.
God's hand of protection on you, huh? Well, we've been on some. I know we're gonna go ahead and cut it off here, but thank you for telling me the story. Love you.
Love you too.